there was a break between songs and he screams at me, "It's my first concert." And I'm like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing. Your first concert is seeing us live. And it just like brings me back to my first concert. I was in Switzerland seeing Pink.
What's going on? This is Tori Kravitz. Welcome back to a new episode of She's with the Band here on KNOTFEST. I am joined by Melissa of Ad Infinitum. How are you?
I'm great. It's beautiful here in Florida. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, you got in my car and immediately went, it's hot.
But I love it.
Welcome to the Sunshine State. Not your first time here, though. You were here in Orlando in September. Times. Yeah. So it's another time around. Yeah. And I'm so glad you're here because I've been bugging your publicist to get you on this podcast for like a year. I remember she sent me your music and I was like, this is so good. When can we set this up? 1 year, 365 days later, we've figured it out. So thank you for being here and making the time.
Invitation. It's
of course.
Nice.
Your music's like one of the few bands where I get super into it in the car and then think I can sing like you and just start belting it. I can't, but I can dream.
Enjoy. That's the way to go.
Yeah, for sure. Especially Somewhere Better. That's the one where I'm like, yeah, I got it. I'm going to sing the notes. But I digress. Do you have any bands like that for you that you just like will belt in the car?
Oh my God. Bands, artists. Yeah. Lately, I mean, we were talking about Bad Omens.
Yeah.
Lately, I'm like, singing quite a lot of this in the car. But so many artists, I know it's a metal podcast, but Dua Lipa just released a few great songs, so I've been singing quite a lot of this as well.
Yeah, we were bonding over that in the car on the way here, where even though as metal girls, we love the heavy music, sometimes it's really nice to just listen to some disco pop.
Right?
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
And speaking of bands that we love, you're on tour with Camelot right now. And this is, this is maybe just some like band lore that I know that your band name comes from a Camelot song. So very full circle that you've ended up on tour with them.
Yeah.
And you've collaborated with them too. So what is your relationship with them like? When you named the band after Camelot, were you a fan and now you're like on tour with them, or what's the vibe with them?
Yeah, so Camelot has always inspired me throughout my career and when I created Ad Infinitum. And I remember I spent a lot of time finding a band name. At first, it was supposed to be a solo project, and then I was like, no, I don't think so. I think I really want to have like the band configuration with people who are not hired guns, but who also can call the band their baby. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, we need to find a cool band name. And at that time, I think I was listening a lot to March of Mephisto, which, funny enough, we perform on stage every night now.
Wow.
So it's like you said, full circle. And I just kept having these words like Ad Infinitum in mind because like there's this intro in Latin at the beginning of the song and it ends with Ad Infinitum. And I was like, this is so cool. And that ended up being the band name.
Yeah. And so does Camelot know?
Yeah, they know. Yeah.
Did they love that? When they're like, maybe they're like, yeah, we'll bring her on tour. It's the least we could do. But that's really neat. So have you been, I don't know, like absorbing any information or inspiration through this tour as a band that you've like listened to and loved? Or I
mean, you always learn a lot from bands who've been around for a long time, such as Camelot, in the way they work, in the way they perform, in the way they work with the crowd. It's super, super interesting and inspiring to learn from them.
Yeah, I suppose that's really the key is like with creativity in general, you can absorb it all the time from all different people and places and collaborations, you name it. Yeah. And I actually read this in another interview. I want to make sure I use the right words that you used because part of what inspired the band name also is the idea that your music is infinite and timeless, which is, I suppose that's the goal of any artist is that their music lives far beyond, right? Mm. So when you think about Ad Infinitum, how do you want your legacy to be?
It would be beautiful if, if we could, like, a few generations from now still make an impact, still some people listening to us, to our music. And, it's always super cool when we see kids coming to concerts, for example.
Right.
Because that you're reaching several generations and hopefully throughout our career, what we will do will live on, like you said.
And I suppose when you're young, because like I've been going to shows for so long now, but the ones that I remember when I was really young were the ones that impacted me the most, or like changed my trajectory of how I perceived and loved music, right? Like, I don't know, those early shows I remember so fondly. So it must be really interesting for you to realize that these young kids who are coming maybe with their family, that you're making that impact on them.
Absolutely. There's actually one family who came to 3 shows on this tour, and I think they are mainly Ad Infinitum fans because they were in the front row during our shows. And the youngest, I think he's 3 years old, 2 or 3 years old, probably 3.
I wish I had been that cool at 3 years old, by the way.
It was so cute because it was like, there was a break between songs and he screams at me, "It's my first concert." And I'm like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing. Your first concert is seeing us live. And it just like brings me back to my first concert. I was in Switzerland seeing Pink.
Wow.
I will always remember that moment.
How cool.
So, just these moments are so meaningful. Mm-hmm. And he ended up on stage with us for the last song, and he was like giving the horns and all that. It was so cool.
He's going to brag about that for life.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, you know it too. And that's such as much as it's so inspiring that is a thing that young kids are coming to the shows, or that may be their first concert, like you said. Yeah. Do you feel sort of a weight in the things that you create or in everything you do with the band? Because of course you love the music and you do it because you're passionate about it. Yeah. But then there's so many other people who are impacted by what you do.
I tend to overthink it sometimes because I'm like, okay, we have to make it in a way that is going to be okay for everyone. And, the way we write, the way we perform and all that. Sometimes it's stupid, but sometimes I'm like on stage screaming and I'm like, oh, I hope I'm not scaring the little kid. Which is stupid because obviously a kid in the front row of a metal show is probably going to be used to it. So, yeah. But yeah, we
so
think
sweet,
a lot.
Though.
Yeah. We think a lot about what we do and how we do it. And for me, what's also very important is when I write lyrics to give the possibility to people to relate to them. Like I will, like especially for the new material that we just recorded. I went more personal with the lyrics compared to what we did before. But I try to always keep the door open to interpretation so people can, connect their own story to it.
Yeah. And that's really an interesting thing to think about because, right, like some bands really do think about their fans when they write their music, and then others are like, I write for me. And then, if they enjoy it, great. So you never really know what a band's mindset is. Yeah. So it always varies.
I mean, my first thought when I'm writing lyrics is usually, if I have something to get out of my system, I'll do it. But then I will turn like the sentence in a nice way that is like sort of poetic or metaphorical, so that it's not like, like I'm sad because I didn't find tomatoes in the supermarket. I'll be like, I don't know. I don't have a metaphor for this right now.
I'm lost in the woods and I can't find the fairies.
Exactly. Oh, you're better than
hire me. I'm available.
You're more spontaneous than me at that.
Don't take those lyrics. Those are horrible. If you do, I would like a songwriting credit. That's all I ask.
I will. I'll give you this.
It's so bad. I should never start a band.
Or you should.
Or I should because maybe it's needed. There could be worse out there. But I digress. Speaking of fairies and woods and whatever, one thing that I really enjoyed deep diving in, getting ready for this interview, are your lyrics, because I know in the past a lot of it has been about historical figures and like actual history, but then also some of it is fantasy. I mean, you're on Instagram like dressed as a vampire right now for a collaboration. Like there's all kinds of these inspirations that are not autobiographical. So now you're saying too, like it's getting more personal on the new stuff. This is really interesting. But regardless of where the inspiration is coming from, storytelling is a really big part of your band.
It's been, we started with some kind of theme and some kind of image, and this is at that point, we really like felt connected to storytelling, history, and all that. We've done 3 albums like this, and it was very enjoyable. I mean, I learned a lot about history because I wanted to be like very, how to say, like I wanted
accurate?
to accurate,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I learned a lot. I listened to documentaries and read and a lot of research, but I felt like we've done these 3 chapters, and we wanted to shift something for the 4th record.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done this shift both in the music and in the lyrics. And I mean, there's still some kind of concept that we will reveal soon enough. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just thought it was time to get more personal with the lyrics, and also it gives me more freedom because when you have to stick to a theme, it's sort of like, okay, you have to tell the story of someone, and you can always put some of yourself into the lyrics and some of your own experiences, but it's still within a certain range. And here with this new record, I really have like the total freedom, and it feels great. And we also went like a certain direction with the music where we're like we'll see how people react to it. I mean, it's not like we're making a country album, but it's still like, I think people who've been following us from the start, they will see that it's a natural evolution.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like what you're trying to say is it's not as heavy.
Oh no!
Oh, it's heavier.
I think there's heavier. There's like in the soundscape, there's less symphonic instruments. There's different type of of orchestrations, if I can call them like this. I guess you would not say orchestrations, but like soundscapes.
Right.
Yeah, it's a bit different.
Interesting. Well, I know we were even talking like on the car ride here, like how as a musician you listen to all different kinds of music to get your inspiration. Yeah. So as an artist, it would be like really boring if you weren't evolving or listening to new things and pulling new things into your music, right? Like you've already made blank album that already came out. Why would you do it again? So I'm curious to see what comes.
Yeah, I mean, for like, we've released at the beginning of this tour, we've released Outer Space, which gives a taste to where we're going.
Yes.
And it's difficult when you evolve as a band, as an artist, and as people together in that band, and your tastes also evolve and go somewhere. It's difficult to know what to do with your own music, I feel, because there's always some expectations, but whatever you do, there's always going to be people who are super happy about it and some people who hate it.
You can't please
some
everybody.
People want you to do your first album over and over again, and some people will tell you, but you've done this already.
Right.
So we were just like, you know what is it that we like right now?
Well, that's the thing is like fans know when something's genuine, right? Yeah. And that always comes across. And the thing is your fans are growing up as you're growing up. So who knows? Everybody's taste is changing and evolving with you. And that's like the best fan base you could hope for is a fan base that does that. Yeah. So even though the lyrics are more personal, the storytelling and the music video, we'll get to that because that Outer Space video was so crazy. But like the way, I don't know, there's just visuals that go along with your music. The story, there's just a whole world built around your music. And why do you think that's such an important part of the band that impacts the way, listeners just perceive the music or experience it? Because it makes it more immersive, I'd say, right?
Absolutely. I think immersive is the word because we try to...
Did I just answer my own question? Oops.
No, but when we're creating the whole package of the album, like the music, the videos, the pictures and everything, we want to give an entire universe to people who will be interested in it. Not just music, but when we put out a video, we also want people to have something else than just the music to focus on. And for the Outer Space video, that was pretty crazy. I think it was, I just suggested like, oh, it's about the lyrics are about floating in space and drifting away, and I was like talking to the videographer and saying, can you make me like float and fall because it would fit the song? And he was like, yes.
Yep. And you did.
And I didn't really know what would happen in the video, but there was this whole team, and he briefly explained how the video would look like. Still, when we got the final product, it was mind-blowing, because we were literally in a white room, and out of this white room, he made space happen.
I loved the behind the scenes video you put on Instagram. So it all makes a little more sense now that you've told me that you have a background in gymnastics. I'm like, so that's how she could do it. Because you were, for anyone who didn't see it, first of all, go on her Instagram and watch this. But you were on like, I don't know what you would call them, sort of aerial like strings. You were hanging from strings and you were flipping around.
I had the harness.
A harness, yes.
And some strings, and there was like a truss, I think you say.
Yeah.
And I had to do some front and back flips, which, like you would think it's easy.
No.
But
I don't.
But it kind of looks easy, but it's like it takes so much of core strength to make these flips happen in the air without having like, when you have the ground, you can push. But when you don't, it's like all in your core. And on top of this, with like, he was like, oh, can you just like lay like this for a while? I was like, sure. With the weight of the boots and everything, I was like, sure.
It must have felt like a plank, but the other way around.
Absolutely. It was like a plank with heavy boots.
That is gnarly. And this is why we're able to write in that caption that you are your own stunt coordinator or stunt double or whatever, something like that you said.
Yeah.
Is that one of the craziest things you've done for a music video, or is there more?
And the From the Ashes video, setting my arm on my hand on fire was like also, I think, one of the craziest things. And it was the same video director.
That's insane. How did you do that?
I had some inflammable liquid on my hand, and this is the thing that burns first. And you have to extinguish it before the liquid has completely burned, because otherwise then it's your hand burning. And first we tried with a finger, because I was like, he told me on the day, okay, we are gonna do this, and I'm like, huh? And we started with the finger. I was like, okay, that doesn't burn like my skin. It's fine. It's warm, but it's fine. And we tried a little more, and then for the final scene, I was like, I had the alcohol all over, and he was like, because they were shooting a little, it was like a little piece of paper that was on fire to like set my hand on fire without having anything on screen that was lighter or anything. So there's this little ball of fire coming, and then the hand goes, and he's like, okay, you have to turn to look, and then I could like, someone was with a towel to
you got to really trust that person.
Yeah, but it was fun. I mean, it helped that it was so cold that I was like, oh, it's warm with all the fire around.
Yeah, it's warm.
It was so cold that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is how I, not that I ever questioned your commitment to the band, but I think that just solidified it. That's as much as possible. That is really cool, though, that you're so involved in this.
Sometimes I feel bad because I get to do all the cool stuff, and my bandmates, they're like taking pictures, and they're like, "This is so cool," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's really cool."
Maybe the next video we're just gonna have you all as like superheroes.
Yeah,
just
that would be
crazy.
So cool. Yeah.
See, I'm ready to join the band now. I've got your lyrics. I've got your music video concept.
Yeah, you want to be part of the team.
Go. But too, I watched several interviews with you beforehand, because that's my job, to do my due diligence. And one thing, I got a little bit of intel in your journey into getting into metal and being the front woman that you are now. But I just love asking the question of your gateway bands. Who were the bands that made you fall in love with heavy music?
So the first one was Nightwish.
Ah, yes.
And then there was Lacuna Coil, Stream of Passion. I got into this first, and then I expanded my horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it took me a while until I got to bands with like harsh vocals. Because at first I was like, I don't understand what they're saying. Now I'm like, I do it on stage.
Yeah.
But because like I think I started pretty late when I was like 18 or something like this. My boyfriend at the time was into metal, and I was into like Rihanna, Shakira, and a little bit of Avril Lavigne and Evanescence, and I was like, yeah, I'm a rebel. I listen to Evanescence, you know.
I mean, we all felt that way listening to Avril Lavigne, for sure.
I still listen to Avril Lavigne, by the way.
For sure.
And so he was listening to Nightwish. He also like Rhapsody, Camelot, and all that. And that's how I started to listen to heavy music. And his best friend had a band, and they were looking for a singer. And so it's like it's a chain of events that led me here with you today.
Crazy. Thank goodness you found Nightwish. I'm so glad. And there's something interesting to be said about that, being the girl metal podcast, that Nightwish and Lacuna Coil were two of your first. Do you feel like there's maybe some correlation between seeing those examples of like female front women in heavy music leading you into thinking, yeah, I could do that too?
So fun fact is Lacuna Coil, I don't remember if that's one of the bands that made me want to do this, but I just remember that my first band played the first like real show in a real venue supporting Lacuna Coil.
Wow.
And I remember after our show, I was watching their show, and I was looking at Christine, and I was like, shit. Can I see?
Yeah. Yeah, go on then.
I just remember thinking, wow, if I can be just like a little bit of what she is at some point, I'll be happy. Because I just looked, no, but seriously, I looked at her on stage, and I was like, she's so powerful. She's so, like, she's warm, but she's also this badass lady. And I just remember looking at her and being like, yeah, that's what I want to be.
And that's the thing. Even as an interviewer, I remember watching a lot of other interviewers who happen to be women as examples and taking notes.
Yeah.
Like, I see what they're doing that I really like. I'm going to spin that in my own way and make it my own thing, right? Because I feel like that's how you learn, is watching those other examples.
Oh, absolutely.
So do you feel like you were kind of taking notes that night?
Yeah, and that night and many other nights where I went to concerts, and I was like, that's funny that you said that you were taking notes, because I remember watching some concerts on YouTube and looking how like girls were performing on stage and how they were interacting with the crowd, and Delane was one of them with Charlotte.
Yes.
And I remember, because I was like, oh, she's so good at, you know, crowd interaction and stage presence, and probably also floor. And I don't remember exactly how many videos I watched, but I would remember being like studying the art of performing on stage.
Yeah, because it's not enough just to be a great vocalist, right? It's that energy you bring onto the stage, which your power suits are helping, by the way. Oh, I see those outfits. That is also really great touch. But you are very powerful. You're in the ranks.
Thank you so much.
In my opinion. Yeah.
It comes with time.
Yeah.
I mean, singing for me has always been the easy part, although I've evolved, of course, since when I started until now. But the hardest part was talking to the crowd and feeling comfortable, and, you know, knowing what to do when you're not singing, for example, instead of like, okay, it's my part again. I'm just like looking at what other people are doing. Now I sing, you know, like knowing what to do in between and knowing how to talk and how to be comfortable on stage. That was the biggest learning process for me.
That's worth noting, is the singing. Yes, it's what do you do in those middle bits, so you're not just standing there bobbing your head or something, for sure. So how long have you actually been performing? Because I know in several interviews you've been singing forever and have been training your voice forever. But when did you actually start performing then?
I think with a metal band, I think in 2012.
Yeah. Wow. So it's been 12 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It just doesn't come overnight. So anybody who's wondering why it's not happening so quickly, like, it takes patience and persistence.
Yeah, it does.
Which you've shown. you know? And something too that I wanted to touch on, you know, just talking about your stage presence is you have such an amazing balance of being powerful, but like feminine. Like you're beautiful and graceful on stage. And that's such a juxtaposition to playing in a symphonic metal band where the music is more visceral and heavy. So how do you find that balance of being authentic and feminine and beautiful while also having the power that metal fans have come to expect at a show?
I don't really think about it because it's more like, for me, it's a bit like a dance. It goes with whatever I'm doing. Like if I'm growling, my body will, that's what my body will, how to say, like I will get into a powerful mode without really wanting or deciding it. It's just like it happens. And then I just dance with the music, sort of.
I guess that's what happens when you're present on stage and just reacting to the music and just feeling it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, totally fair.
Like, it's really this, feeling it and reacting to what's happening and to the music. And sometimes I kind of stop myself because I'm like dancing on stage. I was like, no, that's weird. Okay.
What was that move? Was that just like a body roll or something?
I did a body roll a couple of shows ago and I was like,
but I know you also have dance background, right?
Yeah,
so in another tree said hip hop. Yeah. So, you know, that's got to come out sometimes. Just pop and lock it.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
Bring it into the metal world.
I mean, you know, I really, now I feel more comfortable with it. We were talking about this, like you kind of, when you are a girl in metal, you kind of have to prove that you're tough, you know? And I'm like, no, I don't care. If I want to body roll, I'll body roll.
I think that is, in my opinion, the toughest thing you could do as a girl in metal, because it's sort of an act of rebellion to just be genuine and do the things you want to do that maybe aren't expected. Yeah. That's how I've started to reframe it, because similarly, you know, I dance a little funny and I used to feel conscious of that. I'm like, no, just bang your head. That's what all the guys are doing. And I'm like, what an act of power and rebellion to just dance the way you want to dance. Right. Just have fun. Yeah. And two, I mean, along these lines, another interview you had said that you, early in your career, kind of felt like you had a pressure to fit in a box because there is sort of a lot of stereotypes when it comes to women in this genre. Yeah. And against all odds, you've defied that. You haven't necessarily fit in the box that you were expected to. So what was your mindset like to go against what you were expected? What were you expected or feeling like you needed to be? Yeah, so at the beginning, I felt like I had a lot to prove, especially being a woman in metal, because I felt like, you know, I have to look good, but not too sexy, but also tough, but not too tough, but also, you know, like to not offend anyone. Mm-hmm. And so it goes with the way you perform, the way you dress, the way you talk, the way, you know, things like this. I know it too well. Yeah. Yeah. And at some point I was like, I actually want to define my character, my personality, my image. And I want to feel comfortable with it. And what defines me? And I was like, okay, this and this and this defines me. And this is what I'm going to show. Mm-hmm. It is really complicated, especially, I don't know why sometimes I think about like what you said about you can be sexy, but not too sexy and stuff like that, because sometimes I want to wear something where I just feel beautiful in it, but you don't want it to come off as you're trying to appear a certain way in the male gaze. Yeah, right? Exactly. And there's just all these things that we have to think about that maybe people don't realize. Exactly. And when I look at, for example, a video of a pop artist, let's say Dua Lipa or Taylor Swift or whoever on stage, and they have these beautiful outfits. And sometimes you have like bodysuits with like super shiny stuff and all that. I would never think, oh, she's trying to, you know, be sexy for men or whatever. Mm-hmm. One time I had a bodysuit and sort of a skirt, but like, how to describe this? It was not really a skirt. It was like little... like tassels? Like little dangly? Yeah, dangling exactly. Stuff. Yeah. And I read, I think it was in a review, a show review, like, Ben was great, but the vocalist forgot her pants. And I was like, nobody would ever, like,
care if it wasn't, like if it was, like I said, Dua Lipa going on stage like this, for example.
And this is just the very subtle misogyny that still exists, because things have gotten better for women in this industry, but it's those little digs.
Right?
Yeah.
If a dude goes on stage with his underwear and nothing else, they'll be like, yeah, this is cool. And I'm like,
well, they're certainly not appealing to us. Sorry, boys. I'm not looking for that as a show.
No.
The girls all day, though. Bring it on. Y'all are great. You keep it up. Yeah, do it for the other girls, because I find it, the way you dress on stage, so empowering. It's like you're in your super suit.
Yeah.
You know?
I like it. It feels so comfy.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sometimes you just like start a tour and you have your stage outfit and you happen to feel great in your body and you want to feel cute and powerful and this and that. And it's just sad to have to keep in mind what people will think or say about it.
Yeah.
And as much as it's cool and reassuring when people are like, I love your outfit, it should not matter, but it does.
I know. I'm glad we're having this conversation. I wasn't expecting to. And this is really enlightening, because even for girls who aren't on stage, we all think about this when we get dressed for a show.
Right.
You know, what are we wearing in the crowds that we're not catcalled or looked at a certain way, right? But we want to be empowered and just feel good. And that's what it's all about. So, keep doing what we're doing, ladies. Just feel good. That's all that matters. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And kind of along the same lines of this female empowerment, while we're here on this topic, you're signed to Napalm Records, who I work with so often for this podcast, because the roster is just full of incredible women in heavy music. So do you feel like there has been like a certain kind of community or backing or artists on the label you've connected with, or just in that realm?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Napalm is doing sometimes these special, how would you say, like, for example, for Women's Day, for certain occasions, to gather artists and do some stuff together. I think I've participated once, and you get to discover other artists through this, and also through festivals, and they have their own festival, and also just like by following whatever they're releasing. I feel like there are some people that I've been following Napalm that I felt like I've known for years that I've never met, and then you meet them at festivals, and it's just cool, because there's this, like, I don't know how to explain, but the bands that are signed on Napalm are in the same sort of category musically, although it's pretty wide, but still, like, for example, if you look at Illuminate, Visions of Atlantis, like there's a lot of girls.
Yeah, I mean, Infected Rain, I believe, is also
Infected Rain is
Ginger, which is, they're crushing it right now.
Yeah,
like, there's so many for sure.
Yeah. I feel like Napalm is the label that signed the biggest amount of not only bands with female singers, but also female musicians.
Yes, which we need more of, for sure. That's really cool. And even the publicist who set up this interview, shout out to Natalie. Yes. But yeah, that's really cool to hear. And I love what the label's doing to support you all. And they've been great to work with for the podcast too. So that's just nice to hear, you know, that they're out there. And another thing that inspires me about you, which we definitely got into a little bit in the car, is that you are from Switzerland, currently in Denmark, but you are a worldwide lady. And what an incredible feat. Like, as if it wasn't enough that this is a challenging industry to break into, you also had to break out of the bubble of being in Switzerland and the challenges that came with that. What did you learn about yourself, about resilience, and you know, achieving your goals from that climb of, I mean, becoming an international touring artist in a country where the odds were sort of against you?
Yeah. I you know, there were phases in my life where when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a singer. And then it was like, oh, maybe that's not a real job. I should find a real job. And then I realized, no, that's really what I want to do. But at that point, I had been on, I think, a couple of tours, and I was like, this is really what I want to do, because I was working for a decade in an office.
Wow.
While making music. So it kind of like overlapped. But it's at that point where when I realized I'm actually not happy doing the office job, because all I want to do when I'm at the office is the music job, hobby at that time. And the thing I realized also is that in Switzerland, it was difficult to start as an artist, because when you start, you don't have a salary that can support you, your bills, your art, and everything. Plus, in Switzerland, everything is super expensive. So, at that point, I had this, and I will always remember this moment. I projected myself, 60 or 70-year-old Melissa, looking back and being like, what do I want to see? Do I want to see a whole life of me in the office wanting to make music? And I'm like, no, because I got this one shot at life, and I want, when I'm at the end of it or close to the end of it, to look back and be like, yeah, I've done what I wanted to do. And so at this point, I realized I don't think I can do it in Switzerland, at least not at the point where I was, because financially it was not possible. So I first left Switzerland for Austria for a short time.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
For like 6 months, I was living at a friend's place she was living with her boyfriend, so she rented her apartment to me. And everything was a lot cheaper than in Switzerland. So I could, do my music, plus I had a job at the Hard Rock Cafe there and also at a music school.
Cool.
And then I could, after building this and building my career and incomes in music, which is like never like one source, but you have this and this and that and that. I could then, I moved to Denmark in 2020, perfect timing. But it's at that time that it was like, okay, everything is shutting down and now it's music and nothing else. And at that point I could do it, fortunately. And it was like, the result of all this and yeah, I'm just rambling now. I already forgot what the question was.
No, I mean, you kind of answered it too, like what you learned from that big climb of getting yourself to Denmark. And it's that feeling of feeling fulfilled at the end of it all, like that you did what you were meant to do. Yeah. Right. And that's a thing, not everybody listens to that calling. And I'm terrified of that too. That's why I've just got 4 jobs and I'm making the music thing happen. Yeah. Not as a musician, but it's following your passion.
Yeah. It's difficult to take that leap because especially I've been raised with the you have always to keep in mind security and the safety net and all that. So I built the safety net and then I took the leap. Mm-hmm. And it worked.
Yeah, I would say so. I brought you all the way to this podcast studio in Florida, very far from home.
How cool is that?
And you've been able to travel so much too. Like, what an incredible life. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. It's just, I'm so grateful for it.
Big time. And like, so thinking of Switzerland, is there a local music scene there either, really? Or
There is.
There is, okay.
I think it depends where you go. But for example, where I grew up, there are plenty of bands who are super cool. Yeah. And some of them even get to tour internationally as well. I mean, there's a lot of non-professional or semi-professional band, let's say. And then you have the big ones like Elevati, of course. You have Illumishade, also from Switzerland, we talked about before.
Yes.
And many others. But where I grew up, there's plenty of really cool bands. And we have some local venues, big and small. And there's a lot of nice things to discover. So if anyone wants to check out Swiss bands, do it.
I mean, I'm in. Let's go. I'm always up for new music.
Yeah.
And like thinking of all the music you've created in your journey to get to this point, why do you think Ad Infinitum was the project that clicked? That like this was the one that felt right to make the big leap with compared to anything else you'd done?
So I've always had a lot of fun making music with like my first and second band. I was first in Even More. I joined it. Right. Then I was in Rage of Lights, kind of at the same time. And it was also my friend's project. So it was fun while not being exactly the music that I wanted to make. And the big difference with Ad Infinitum is that I created it first on my own with like, giving it the direction that I wanted. And then I found the people who connected to that direction.
You're your own boss now, I suppose.
I would say we are 4 bosses because now it's like
True.
We really, everyone in the band is really involved and we all have our tasks. And, it was difficult at the start because I was like, I was afraid because I've tried before to gather friends and make a band and, everyone is pulling in a different direction. So I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But luckily with Ad Infinitum, what's happening is that we all want the same thing. We like the same kind of music. We're just enjoying the ride together.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of a roll of the dice how the band members go right in the beginning. Definitely. For sure. Well, I'm glad it brought you here. That's really rad. And now to end every episode of She's with the Band, we have 4 jaw-dropping questions. Are you ready for yours? Yes. Okay. Well, the first one is, what is the most jaw-dropping experience you've ever had at a show? Could be one of yours or one you've just attended. Either way.
Oh, crazy. I know.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I've been to a Slipknot show.
Perfect place to mention that.
Yeah.
Oh, KNOTFEST.
Actually. I think it was in 2015 at Hellfest. I think 15. And it was my first Slipknot show. And at some point, the whole crowd goes down. It was during, what was the song? Oh, no, I don't want to start thinking that because I'm going to spend 10 minutes thinking.
Okay.
So the crowd is like down and, bumping a little bit, like bouncing like this. And then, there's the jump the fuck up. And there's like these thousands and thousands of people jumping. And I remember being bounced around so much that I was like, oh shit, I have to go a little bit on the side because it was so crazy. And on top of this, they had these turning drum kits and the fire and stairs. And I was like, oh my God, this is a show.
Yeah. I always have put Slipknot in my top 3, best shows I've ever gone to. Probably number 1. I mean, they're my bosses technically, kind of. So I should say number 1, Slipknot is number 1. No, but it's a crazy show. I even just saw them a couple weeks ago. And even knowing what their show is like, it never gets old.
Yeah.
So crazy.
It's kind of like this experience with another Slipknot show in Switzerland at Greenfield. They had just released Devil and I. And there's this choir at the beginning. And Greenfield is in the mountains. And there's this choir in the night. And it's like it echoes in the mountains. And I have goosebumps thinking again about this. So those two, were beautiful experiences.
That's phenomenal. I love that. And now the most jaw-dropping misstep early in your career and the lesson that you learned from it.
Oh, the show that I mentioned before with Lacuna Coil. It was, I don't know if it was a mess up, but I was so nervous that seconds before entering the stage, I get a cramp.
Oh, no.
Leg cramp. And I could not really walk. It was so strong because you have to imagine, we've always played little bars and with family and friends. Suddenly we were Z7 in Switzerland, which is one of the coolest venues in Switzerland, playing right before one of the bands that, one of the first bands that got me into metal. Yeah. And you have this crowd, which is their crowd. We're this little band. And I'm looking at the crowd and I'm like, oh my God. I walk and I'm like, oh, okay. And then the keyboard player of my band, she had some magnesium or something and she gave it to me and then I could walk, but literally maybe 2-3 minutes before entering this. That was the craziest.
Wow. Yeah. That is gnarly. So what now? Do you just do a little stretch when you're nervous or take a magnesium before?
No, I do a little body warm up.
Yeah. You never make that mistake twice.
Don't look at the crowd. No, I'm fine.
That too, I guess that would probably psych me out if I looked at the crowd beforehand.
I guess I'm not super nervous about it anymore, so it also helps.
That's true. You've been doing this long enough. Yeah. And now the most jaw-dropping female artist that you would love to work with.
Hayley Williams.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just like the answer.
Right?
It is, yeah.
She's amazing. I love her stage presence. I love her voice. I love Paramore. I love their songs. I'm trying to get a ticket to see Paramore. And it's impossible because it's on the Era Tour from Taylor Swift.
Uh-oh, yeah.
I love both artists, but honestly, I really want to see Paramore. And I've been like, you have to join a waiting list and to be like, I don't know.
I mean, just 2,000 euros and it's yours, right?
But
like, if anyone watching has a spare ticket, let's use this platform to get you a ticket.
But I've seen countless videos of Paramore on stage, and I'm like, I need to see that show. Have you seen them?
I have. Sorry, Shay said no. No, she's amazing. I mean, you know what? And I think there's something to be said about, again, a vocalist who can also perform, right? Like her presence, I don't know how she does it.
I love how she does this little dance.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, she's so cute.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see her in a symphonic metal collaboration.
Oh,
Who's
that
to
would
say?
be crazy. Yeah.
Imagining it now. And the last one we have for you, most jaw-dropping misconception about you that you wish people understood. Or is there anything you really want people to understand about you that you're, I don't know.
I think sometimes I don't know, because I feel like I've never felt completely misunderstood or anything, but
that's a good thing.
Yeah. But I think sometimes when people meet you or meet an artist for the first time, they think that they're very different from their persona on social media or videos and all that. And I feel like maybe I look more tough or I don't know.
Well, there's sort of a natural hierarchy in the fact that you are on a stage and then the crowd is in a different spot. So that perception can happen. Yeah.
Because actually that's funny, because someone told me a couple of days ago, because I had for example, there would be a sad situation and I'm very like easily tearing up. And someone told me, it's funny, I didn't think you would react like this because you look tougher. And I'm like, why? So maybe that would be the one.
That is actually a really great answer, though. We all sort of mystify artists and make them these larger than life. And I understand too, because music means a lot to people, right? So they hear your voice every day and start to build a story around you because they don't know you. But I think you're pretty chillin'. You're pretty great. I think you're tough. I think everything you've been through to get you here is tough.
You have to. But
you're like amazing and sweet.
You too.
Yeah, thanks. This is just the Melissa fan club. Thank you all for being here. No, but that was a great answer. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And I hopefully more fans are coming out to meet you at the shows and all that. I know tonight's the last night of the Camelot tour, but is there other stuff coming up you want to shout out?
Yeah, we have another tour coming up this fall in Europe, also with Camelot and with Blackbriar and Frozen Crown. So there's going to be a lot of female power on stage.
Cool.
It's going to be super cool. And maybe new music coming by then.
I mean, it sounds like very promising on the new music department, which is always exciting. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. This has been such a great chat. I'm so glad we finally got to meet as well. Now I could put like a face and a person to all the songs I've been belting in the car. And everybody who's watching, thank you for being here as well. And if you enjoyed this episode, give us a like, a review if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And stay tuned every other week here on KNOTFEST.com for more of She's with the Band. Catch you next time.